Hi, I'm Ian McGarry, personal trainer for RPM. And in this video, we're going to explain progressive overload. First of all, what it is. You've probably heard of it before, but I'm going to break it down in a very simple way. Progressive overload is where we apply more loading to muscle, and we do it repeatedly and gradually over time. Without this progression, we actually don't get much more muscle gain or strength gain. So it's very important that when we go and train, we have an idea to either add on a kilo or add on a rep, and have that in our mind all the time. One really easy way of doing this is to log your training, is to keep what you lifted, how many reps you lifted, keep it somewhere written down or on your phone. That way then you have a record and you have a memory of what you did last week. Without this, it can be very difficult, especially when you're a beginner trying to know what weight should I pick. And the next thing then is knowing how should I increase, what should I increase, how many sets. This can be very confusing for beginners and for people who are more advanced. And the easy way to explain it is using an RPE scale. So the RPE scale is basically the relative perceived exertion, scale from 1 to 10. And depending on what your training goal is, you're going to lie somewhere from 1 to 10. For most people, I suggest going with about 2 reps in reserve, so an RPE of 7 to 8. It basically means that you're not going fully to failure, you're leaving a little bit in the tank. And having this approach will allow you to progressively overload more frequently. If you train to failure an awful lot, it's going to limit how much progression you can make. It's going to actually reduce how much stronger you can get. So rather than trying to go for a 1 rep max on your bench press every week, how about pulling back a small bit and lifting really well with good form, but keeping that 1 to 2 reps minimum in the tank on each set. What you should aim to do is, for example, if you have 3 sets of bench press, is either increase 1 set on its own each week, or if you're feeling very strong, you can increase in multiple sets. In my opinion, it's a better idea just to focus on the 1 set. If you focus on increasing 1 set each week, and it can be by 1 kg or even 2.5 kg, or some weeks it might be more. But in focus on 1 set, you'll have a better chance of getting that continual progression. And the next thing then, and something to bear in mind, is that you're not the Hulk. You're not going to get stronger every week until the point you can lift a car. So just focus on small progressions rather than trying to eventually, be able to lift ungodly weight. It's a much more realistic approach. And progressive overload isn't just lifting heavier and heavier and heavier non-stop. You can actually increase progressive overload by making the exercise more difficult. And this is a really good approach that I like to use with clients. Instead of just focus on going heavier and heavier and heavier, where you're also increasing risk of injury, focus on increasing the time under tension, the tempo, or focus on making the exercise more difficult on purpose. So adding in things like pauses, adding in half reps in between each full rep. These are all techniques, intensifiers that we can use to make the exercise more difficult without necessarily having to continuously lift a heavier and heavier load. It's a safer approach, and also for beginners, it's a really good way of getting mastery of the lift. I'm Ian McGarry, this is RPM.